Last week, we spoke to Lori Barkman, the business transition Sherpa. She gave us insight on her amazing career and what founders miss when they try to sell their business. This week, we go deep on the psychology of selling your business. Welcome to Startup Different. This is the Startup Different podcast, hosted by successful entrepreneurs and brothers, Dave and Chris Sinkinson. We're here to bust startup myths and give you the insights you need to help you reach your startup dreams. Hello, folks. It's Startup Different. I'm Dave. He's Chris. It's just us this week. Chris, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing, Dave?
Hey, did you notice I'm wearing a collared shirt?
Yeah, did you notice that my shirt almost blends in with this couch?
It does, actually. I didn't notice.
It's like a green screen effect, you know? You're looking right
That's
through
a pretty
me.
good intro line. Did you have that prepared?
No.
Were you thinking about it?
No, I wasn't thinking about that.
It's really close. We'll see if maybe producer Graham, we can get you to change his shirt color or something. Can we do that?
I don't think
Can we
so.
make your shirt into like a GIF? You know, like the Star Destroyer or the Death Star being destroyed. Or
So I'll
something
never
like
wear the shirt again on the show.
No, I want to.
you.
You remember when like the queen, the former queen, when she was wearing that really bright green dress?
Oh, yeah.
And like the internet just took it upon themselves to just
green screen
that thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I want you to wear that. That's what I'm trying to tell you right now. All right.
Thanks.
Anyway, hey, cool. Hey, let's talk about our awesome interview last week.
Absolutely.
Lori Barkman, business transition Sherpa. I'm just gonna give a quick overview for anybody who didn't catch the episode last week. Check it out wherever you get your podcast. Check it out on YouTube for the video as well. And so really interesting. Lori is a very fascinating person, like super successful for one thing, is just what I'm going to generally throw out there. During the interview, we talked about her time working sort of like as an intrapreneur. She basically had like she called it a corporate startup, which is kind of an interesting term. And we can get to that in a second. But corporate startup, which ended up being like American Eagle, was it American Eagle?
That's right.
And like $75 million in revenue. Like they had a party. Like that's a lot of t-shirts. That's a crazy amount of success. Like to basically kick off your career, to be part of something like that. Gets into this other big company that is like a logistics company. They get sold in this $1.4 billion transaction in 2015. Was part of that family business, and now it kind of took that experience around that acquisition and kind of learned some important lessons and got thinking about kind of what is important for founders to be thinking about when it comes to transitioning out of their business or selling their business or both. And that kind of led her to become this business transition Sherpa.
Yeah,
right?
I love that term too, by the way, the Sherpa, because she's there with you along the journey, which we didn't really have when we were going through an acquisition. So I really like that term that she uses.
Yeah, so I've done a few. I always think of I've done a few hikes. Like I've done Machu Picchu and Kilimanjaro and stuff like that. Not to look at me humble bragging over here. But I always think of the Sherpa as the most qualified climber by far.
Yeah,
definitely the strongest person.
Yeah,
like all the Sherpas are massively stronger, and they don't necessarily look super strong. They just are. They've just done the hike a million times. They can carry all kinds of stuff. And yeah, it is kind of an interesting term. I didn't know how I felt about it at first, but as it kind of went on and she kind of explained, I'm like, okay, this adds up. And now, like, really because of her level of expertise, like she's doing the logistical and like mental heavy lifting, for you as you continue to climb that like entrepreneurial mountain.
So like the business owners are like the tourists that are completely ill-equipped.
Excuse me.
Don't have enough oxygen. They're out of shape. They're like, is that where your analogy is going with this?
Well, I'd like to believe that I did train a little bit, but I'm not as well trained. You're good at like you can get you sorted out, but the Sherpas are good at everybody.
That's
and
true.
all the gear and all the logistics. They know what needs to get done.
Yeah.
Whereas you bring they bring everything else.
Like when you collapse halfway up the mountain, they're the ones going to carry you back down.
Yes, actually, I have seen that happen.
Yeah.
In something of some sort of a improvised sled. But anyway, we digress. But yeah, so very interesting though, because she had this that entrepreneurial journey. And so now she's doing this thing where she's sort of supporting these founders. And a couple of interesting points kind of came out of it. I think it caused us to really reflect on our experience selling our company.
Yeah.
And I guess I was kind of interested in, like, why didn't we do this? Why didn't we think of this?
I was so scared. was so scared of distraction when we were running our business. From my perspective, I always felt like if we started thinking about this, then we were just going to be distracted by that, by like focusing too much on that. And it was like a thing that, I don't know, I just thought it would be too much of a distraction. What did you feel about it?
I never thought it would happen. And I thought that if I started thinking about it, that, it would definitely be distracting. I think it would, on a day-to-day basis, you would start thinking about, like even when we started, for those of you who know our story well enough, there was actually an offer made to us that we declined. And then a year later from the same company that we actually ended up accepting. But, in that year period, we were thinking about that every single day.
Yeah. And actually, we really positioned ourselves much better for the second offer because we knew that there was likely going to be an exit. So I think in a way, we had a very abbreviated version of what Lori's trying to do with other entrepreneurs, which is to sort of set them up for that day that they are looking to exit their business, whether it be for retirement, whether it be for just, I want to do something different, I want to transition out, I want to go traveling, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think that when we totally avoided it for like the first 9 years. And then for 1 year, we knew it was kind of in the realm of possibility and we got really focused on it. And then we did a whole bunch of things. Like I can remember we really cleaned up our documentation for our software really was lacking in some areas. And we really cleaned all
up
that
legal
stuff.
agreements.
Okay. We cleaned up legal agreements.
Man.
Yeah. We cleaned up anything to do with banking and accounting.
Yeah, I was going to say our
stuff.
invoicing systems and a lot of that, cleaning up some of that.
Like managing our customer, like everything we knew about our customers. We had some tech debt that we really attacked and got rid of. And then, so fast forward from the first offer to the second offer, I felt much more comfortable that we were in a position like we were selling a solid, if you treat your business as a product, that product was in an incredibly good place at that point when we were selling it, which I think made the due diligence go much better. But we had the benefit of the first offer that kind of made us focus on those types of things. And so I guess the question is, if we had started focusing on that 10 years earlier, would we have done better?
Yeah, I don't know. I think probably, yeah. I think anytime you're doing something deliberately, it's probably going to be a better outcome. Yeah. I still think we did a lot of things. Obviously, I'm incredibly biased, but I do think that these are sort of empirically proven things that if you systematize your business, if you kind of build it in such a way, it's very product focused, you do it in a certain way that basically you're much more appealing to be bought, and you're in a much better position just in general. Yeah. Right. And it actually kind of made me think of a few things. So first was she mentioned her myth being that why is it that only venture capital, businesses are thinking about exits? And I think there's a couple of reasons. One is that a lot of venture capitalists are former entrepreneurs, or they are people that have a lot of money and they want to get their money out of the investment. Yeah. Right. So they're thinking about exit.
They're thinking about exit right away.
Yeah. They before they've made the initial investment, they're thinking about what am I going to get for this business and why isn't it 10 times what I put in?
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? So there is, you kind of get why that happens. But it's fascinating to me that I really think that the reason why entrepreneurs don't think about it is that entrepreneurs, and this kind of comes back to some of the stuff we talked about last season, like with Brooke and some other folks, that entrepreneurs are about the impact they're making. The thing the thing does, the product does, or whatever, that is their primary focus for a while. That can also involve selling that thing, but as a means to accomplishing the mission. I always come back to mission and culture. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But so when you think about that, you're not really thinking, I want to sell this bad boy for $100 million. You're thinking, I want to keep expanding this business because that expands the amount of impact I can achieve.
Right.
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 So you kind of just gloss over the exit.
Yeah.
Even though, as Lori accurately stated, someday you're gonna be done out of that business.
Every founder is out of their business, right? So
eventually.
Yeah. So one thing you just said there was culture. And it made me think of before you and I were working together, I was doing my own thing.
Good old days?
The good old days. I don't know if I wouldn't use the adjective good, but
old days.
The old days. I remember we were doing document management software and we were at a trade show and I had a couple of employees. and there was like a photocopier manufacturer, and some random person said to one of my employees that, oh, that photocopier manufacturer, they're acquiring software businesses. Okay. And it was like a bomb went off, because then all of a sudden the employees were like, are we selling? How much am I getting? Da, 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 and all that sort of stuff. And there was no equity arrangement with those employees, but it completely distracted everybody.
I bet they thought there was.
Oh, yeah. Nobody was interested in actually selling our software. They just wanted to get a piece of the business if it ever sold. And it created so much turmoil that I think maybe that's part of the reason too. I was always like, don't think about that stuff. Don't think about that. Just focus on the customer.
Because it poisoned the well back in the day for you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So I might be, that might have been a formative thing that happened to me, and that's why I'm kind of shying away from it. I never wanted to have those conversations with any staff, just because I feel like it gets their eyes off the ball. All of a sudden, there's a lottery ticket out there that people might have.
See, that's really it, though, and I think formalizing a lot around that lottery ticket is pretty important. So what do we mean by lottery ticket? Like, you as a founder, assuming you're a founder if you're watching, you take on a disproportionate amount of risk as an entrepreneurial founder, as a founder of a smart startup company. At the end of the day, you're the one that's probably picking up a lot more of those bills early on. You're the one that's deciding to not follow a different kind of career path, which is probably available to you. You're the one who's going to go out there and really market test, is this thing going to work or not? And, everybody else goes home at 5.
Yeah.
And I think that really the way that a lot of founders want to think about that, again, is like there's the mission part. But then I think if they have a co-founder or something, probably early on, they've structured with that co-founder like what the equity situation is, mostly as a means to just not have it be an issue.
Yeah,
something they don't have to think about.
Right.
Like, and I think for us, like with our team, we were pretty clear. There's, anybody who asked, there was no equity. We didn't do like profit sharing or anything like that in our company. In retrospect, we could have maybe looked at it a bit more, maybe. Yep. But honestly, I don't totally get how it works or if it's even that meaningful to people. Yep. You know what I mean? Like if somebody gets 0.0005% equity in something, is that going to keep them on? Or is that just gone?
Yeah.
Is that just value that I've lost as a founder?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I know we did a pretty good job at bonusing people when big things happen.
Yeah, it's about cash.
Yeah.
It's about
because that's what we figured it was more about. Like equity may or may not have a value. A bonus for an employee probably means a whole lot more. It means they can then go and take actual cash and go and spend that, and they get the benefit of it right away. But the equity piece always gets so complicated because of, vesting and, what happens if they leave the company? And there's a lot of really tough questions that you have to ask with that.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like a bonus is just like, hey, we had a great year. Here's your Christmas bonus. And, thank you so much.
Hey, we're taking a short break to tell you some exciting news. Chris and I wrote a book. Surprise! It's called Startup Different, the myth-busting blueprint for your multi-million-dollar business, and it's available now. Like our show, we're trying to pay it forward to our fellow entrepreneurs. The book busts 33 business myths, tells some of our most hilarious stories, and gives you many of our best tools to build, scale, and exit your business. You'll find the book on all major online retailers, including Amazon. Check it out. We think it's pretty great. And now, back to the show.
I think a lot of... So now shift gears here a little bit to the early employees into a startup. Somebody might be listening today. They are employee like 1 or 2 or 3 after the founders. Okay. They're also taking some degree of risk. I don't think it's the same. I will just say that right now. Obviously, I'm biased, and that's cool. And you can call me this is a children's program, so you can call me a POS. And that's not point of sale system.
This is a children's program?
Yeah, I don't know. My daughter might watch this at some point. But I think for them, there is some risk there too. But you're not actually looking for equity is what I want to tell you right now. You listening. What you're interested in is a payout if the company's sold. And these are similar but different. Legal equity is really complicated. To actually give someone legal equity, there's a cost to it. There's a tax implication like right away and all these other kind of messed up things. What you can do, and there might be, and this is for the founders now, we're going back to you, is if you want to do something for those early employees, you could do some kind of faux equity, which is sort of like in the event that there's a sale of the company, whenever we'll pay you out a percentage of it or whatever you're comfortable, just something, but it's not actually true equity. And that agreement should say, this is not equity. This agreement should say, we are bonusing you in the event of the sale of the company subject to all the other deductions and all those things. But there's a way you can make it work if that's what it's all about. If you really want, if those people want to know that they're going to be recognized for it, I think that's an effective.
Yeah, I think that's what everybody wants to know, is that if there is a big payday someday, that they get to participate in that, and that's important. But I don't know.
Shout out to Rave. Like, I didn't even know that existed till we got to Rave.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's the
Bill
way.
Price. I see you. But like that was interesting. As a functional mechanism. There's also other tax benefits too. In certain circumstances to that.
We're not giving you tax advice.
And and now a word from our lawyers. Okay. So we're digressing here a little bit. The other thing that she talked about I thought was pretty cool was this thing at Carnegie Mellon, the corporate startup lab. And let's go back to this theme that she had of intrapreneurship. So I'm not a good entrepreneur because I haven't really been in a big company and done that kind of an experience, but it sounds pretty cool to be honest. It sounds like very no ownership, but like also reasonably low risk. Kind of innovation.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like your greatest, like if you're the owner and you've got somebody who's an intrapreneur, that's like your greatest employee ever.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's somebody who is doing, like, going way beyond and really looking for opportunities to expand your business.
Well, I think once your company achieves a certain size, that's good.
Yeah.
In the early days, people got to do specific roles because you're just trying to get.
Oh yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. You still got to do what your job description says, but there are always opportunities when you're in businesses to find new avenues for new products, new services that you can offer, or cost cutting, like ways of doing things more efficiently, that sort of stuff. So like that idea of entrepreneurship, like I think any employee, is going to be, from my perspective, that's my greatest day, is if an employee comes to me and says, "Hey, Chris, I figured out a way that we could save a whole bunch of time and money on this thing that we do all the time." Like, oh wow, you're the greatest
What
employee.
if they're like, all we have to do is get rid of Chris Singleton? Then what?
Then I'm less enthused.
Yeah.
Just less.
Yeah. We got to respect the guts of that employee to come in there and pitch that idea. Get the hell out of here. No, that's cool. That's cool. I see what you're saying. Like, you want there to be a certain spirit of like curiosity and like looking for solutions that benefit. I mean, one of our principles at AppArmor was, act in our best interests. And I think a lot of that's kind of what we were looking for was, hey, it doesn't have to be a huge, $100 million change or whatever. It can just be like, look, I found this little inefficiency. I think we could do this way, and I think it'd be a lot better. And then if you, as a founder, if you want to make employees feel good, act on it. Like if it's a good idea, act on it really quickly.
Yeah.
And they'll go, wow, look at the impact I have in my job.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that some leaders miss, is that it's one thing for someone to have a good idea, but you should try to implement as quickly as you can if that person matters to you and your team.
Absolutely.
She couldn't tell us any war stories, which made me a little bit upset.
What do you mean?
For that startup, for that like corporate startup lab. I was hoping to get like, and this was how Spanx, and now the rest of the story, like that kind of thing. But
yeah, I'm sure some of that stuff is probably not able to be put out on a podcast, but I can understand why. I do love the approach that they took to that, though, because when we did our MBA programs, I did a project course or wrote a business plan and stuff like that. I had a faculty member who was an advisor, but I only had one. And I feel like what's really interesting about what they're doing there is it seems like you have access to a much more diverse set of faculty and entrepreneurs that are then helping you with that, which I find really interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like I had one point of view that I was trying to mold my business plan into to make sure that my faculty advisor.
Your eyes look very skeptical there. You're like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I had pretty good rapport with the faculty member, but it would have been interesting to have somebody with a different perspective on that. Yeah.
You know what? It's funny because I think that what was it, like 5 years ago when like all the universities and colleges suddenly had a whole bunch of money for innovation, and their strategy was, let's build a new building. Okay.
And put the word innovation on the building. Front of it.
And I feel like that's actual innovation. You get a bunch of smart people, you put them together, you give them a broad problem.
Yeah.
You give them a rough structure to do it.
Yeah.
She talked about the scorecard, the Eric Ries stuff. And and then have them execute, and then have them come out with an actual deliverable that is like real world and practical and useful.
Yeah.
Like imagine
like
if we had taken all that building money and put it into just that kind of those concepts, almost like a series of investments for society rather than.
It's like the science fair at Springfield Elementary School when like Martin Prince makes the like power plant.
And he's powering this room.
It's powering this room right now.
Remember Homer wins though because he puts the racing stripes on the side of the big towers. I think those look pretty neat. Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't know. That was pretty interesting to me that there was this kind of like that focus on like true innovation, actual things that could be picked up by those companies too, if they actually liked what was happening.
Absolutely. I think that's really innovative.
Yeah. Yep. And then, so also folks, as we mentioned, we'll put it in the description for this episode too, but some free resources provided by Lori's team, which is fantastic. Definitely check them out in the description of this episode. And yeah, and also, also check out her podcast as well, Success Stories. We were on it, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it must be a fantastic show. I mean, my goodness. But definitely give that a look as well. Any other closing thoughts, I guess, on Lori? Or
I think the one other thing I just wanted to add, and Lori actually mentioned it to us after we finished recording, was she wanted to mention John Warrillow's podcast, Built to Sell Radio.
Yeah, also a great show.
Yeah.
Also features some fantastic guests like Seth Godin, David Singleton, and other important people.
I didn't get to go on it. I just got like...
Dude, by popular demand, I was put on the show. I'm sorry, Chris.
But one thing I did want to mention that I think you made a really good point when we were wrapping up with Lori was that you had said, his stuff, the Built to Sell, kind of is like the lead-in to the Business Transition Handbook.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. So like John Warrillow's stuff is more about like, how do you organize your business? How do you set it up so that it's ready to sell? And then Lori like takes you from like, okay, I want to sell through to I'm sold and I'm exited and I'm gone.
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting that those two, I think that it's ironic that you were on both podcasts.
Or entirely appropriate. I think, given that we've gone through this experience, but
is that what
Chris throws around irony the wrong way? It's like never actually ironic. It's actually totally realistic. Anyway. But yeah, no, I see your point. And yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how it all kind of like fits together. And obviously Lori's also part of like John's value builder network.
That's right. Yep.
So it kind of adds up that she kind of sees the whole picture. But I think the main takeaway that, again, that we want to make sure you leave here with today is it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how long your business has been running or if it's even up and running yet. You should be thinking about the exit and how you want to get there. And then when you get there, or when you're getting closer to it, or you're starting to think about it more seriously, there are resources out there to help you do it. Yeah. And I think that's something that we could have really benefit from that we just simply didn't get.
Didn't know about it.
Or
I didn't look.
Yeah. Like actually, this was something else I said to Lori as well, is that when we thought about selling our business or like whatever the exit was going to be, our strategy was just to straight not think about it. It was like Homer Simpson. I don't know why we have so many Simpsons references all of a sudden the past 2 seasons, but when Homer's like, he has to write the exam at the Springfield Heights Institute of Technology, and his strategy was he was going to hide under a pile of coats and hope that everything turns out okay. So that was basically my exit strategy. Just keep working on the business, so the equivalent of hiding under those coats, and just hopefully come out of it one day and everything would be all right. But it did kind of work out in the end.
Worked out for us. I think we were very fortunate. Because we did not do the right planning.
No.
So, everybody else listening to this has the benefit of knowing that and an opportunity to do it better. So definitely check out the show notes for this episode.
Absolutely, folks. Thank you so much. One last shameless plug. Startup Different, your myth-busting blueprint for your multi-million-dollar business, is now out and available on Amazon. It's in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. Check it out. It's also on other major online retailers, so find it wherever you get your books. And please, of course, if you've read the book, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you on basically anything. But also check us out on social, and of course, rate the pod. Thank you so much, and we will be back next week with another interview with another great guest. Till then, see you later.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end of the episode. Nicely done. If you enjoyed this episode, like, comment, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so the almighty algorithm can help others find us. Want more from Startup Different? Check out our book, Startup Different, the myth-busting blueprint for your multi-million-dollar business. Follow us on social. We're big on YouTube, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can also check us out at startupdifferent.com. Special thanks for this episode to Graham and our friends at Toronto Podcasts. Visit them at torontopodcast.ca. See you next week.